I mean, they say a problem shared is a problem half solved. And I believe that is true because when you shine a light on something, it is half solved because you have to identify to solve it. You feel me?
Sit back, relax, and chill. Grab a glass of wine or a cup of tea, 'cause you're listening to NoTable Talk.
What's up, y'all? It's your boy, Otumba, and welcome to my podcast, NoTable Talk, a podcast where I break my tables that you may be able to resonate with as well. If it's your first time, thank you. Thank you for listening. Thank you for watching. And if it's not your first time, thank you for coming back. I really appreciate you. Really appreciate you. If you're still here, I think it's a good time to like, subscribe. You can also go ahead and hit that notification bell because episodes are dropping every week. So you can be aware of when they drop, you feel me? So, yeah, without further ado, let's get into it. All right, so today I'm going to be talking about vulnerability. And as it pertains to me, I'm going to be talking about it in two segments. First is the fact that I just don't often find myself in positions where I'm allowed to be vulnerable. I don't know if I say allowed, but where I'm just allowed, I'll say allowed, where I'm allowed to be vulnerable. And second segment is the fact that I just struggle to actually open up and actually be vulnerable when I do find myself in those spaces sometimes. You feel me? Today, I'm going to be talking about that first segment. The fact that I don't often find myself in that position to be vulnerable. See, it's interesting. I was talking to a friend yesterday. Coincidentally, I had lined up talking about this for way before yesterday. And we're having a conversation and the topic of vulnerability came up. And she literally broke all of my tables when unknowingly, when she mentioned how when I'm involved in conversations with people, it's easy for me to turn the tables on them and sit on their tables or sit on their matters. So for example, I meet up with somebody, they ask me, "Oh, Corey, how you doing?" I'm like, "I'm good. How you doing?" And they're like, "They're fine." And then because I find it easy to ask probing questions, and because I'm pretty observant as well, I notice when there may be a comma in your fineness. So it's easy for me to probe, it's easy for me to ask questions, and not from a place of trying to solve your problems, but from a place of actual concern and actually wanting to help you figure out, if I can, really, I don't push, but help you figure out what's going on. We can work through it together and find ourselves sitting on that. Find ourselves sitting on their issues, you feel me? And when she said that, I was like, wow, that's crazy. That's crazy. And I feel like a lot of us could relate to that because especially when you often find yourself in situations where you offer advice or you're the one encouraging, you're in a position of leadership where you shoulder the burden of others, you're the one that makes peace, you're the one that allows or ensures things run smoothly. You often find yourself in positions of care. You often find yourselves in positions of leadership in general, of service. You find yourself in a position of service. So you're typically on the service end of things as opposed to being the one serviced. And it really occurred to me that I don't usually find myself in spaces, or I don't usually even place myself in spaces where I'm the focus, where not even just places where I'm the focus, but at least there could be mutual conversations to where you can go back and forth, even though we all have issues, but we can both talk about our issues. I don't often find myself in those spaces, and not to the fault of anyone really, but also I think I've realized that it also has to do with me, to the fact that I just see how successful I am sometimes, or most of the time, in helping people walk through their issues. I tend to be able to ask people questions or put them on a train of thought that causes them to be introspective, you feel me? And I'm able to, by the grace of God, give some feedback or give some air of wisdom that could be very applicable. So I guess sometimes I kind of adopt that as my job. And it just really opened my eyes to the fact that I don't really put myself in that space to be catered for. It's almost like, and in my conversation with my friend, it really occurs to me that even a therapist needs a therapist. Even a therapist needs a therapist. Someone who talks all day with people through their issues and through their matters and helps them to be more self-aware, helps them to work out their problems, and who therapizes for the therapist, if that's if therapizing is a word. It's almost like Superman, really. Superman goes around saving people all day. Who asks Superman, are you okay? And I'm not saying I'm Superman, please. I'm not saying I'm Superman, not one bit, but who really cares for Superman? Who thinks Superman even needs help? Does Superman even think he needs help? How often does Superman even think he needs help? Especially when saving in his full-time job. Or when, even though he doesn't see it as his full-time job, he may not see it as his full-time job, but people place that demand on him. Interesting. But in this occurring to me, taking a more conscious efforts in putting myself in the space of being taken care of, be it actively seeking out people or someone. I don't know about people. Especially when some of the things you could discuss could be too private to share with a bunch of people. But I mean, even if you're seeking out someone who I can talk things through about myself, or even if it's making a more conscious effort to not just adopt the position of the savior, really, or even opening up to people close to me sometimes a little bit. You feel me? Just maybe not because they have my solution at hand, but also it could just be because opening up and venting could make me feel better. Or it could lead us down a conversation where we discover things, where things are brought to light. I mean, they say a problem shared is a problem half solved. And I believe that is true because when you shine a light on something, it is half solved because you have to identify to solve it. You feel me? So I'm saying this for, not just for myself, for anyone who can recognize with this too. When you tend to shoulder the burden of people, maybe in your family, maybe at work, maybe you're in leadership, you're in management, maybe in church, maybe just in the relationships around you, people tend to seek you for advice. Maybe because you're smart. Maybe you're too smart for your own good. Maybe because they've recognized some wisdom that you have. Maybe just some wisdom. Maybe, do you even have to hold back sometimes? That's something to think about, really. Do you have to be like, sometimes you have to be like, okay, I choose to be off the clock today. Not every problem that crosses my table has to be solved. Do you need to be more selective in the problems you attempt to help solve? There's a bunch to think about, just as I'm thinking about a bunch of things too. But at the end of the day, I mean, I know that, especially if you've constantly been in the place of service, you've helped people. So, I mean, I'm not inclined to stop helping when I can help, but I'm also realize that I'm not God. First of all, like, I help everyone. I haven't finished helping myself. You feel me? And who's to say that every help I render is even useful help? Who's to say? But I'm not going to stop being of service, because I tend to find myself being of service sometimes, but I'm going to be more conscious with tending to myself too. Allowing myself to be tended to. Because when I talk about the people closest to you, they may not even know. That, because left to them, you may not even be going through anything just because you don't talk or you don't look like it. You feel me? And this whole thing is very deep to me. There's a bunch of stuff I could go into, but I'm allowing lessons that I'm learning right now kind of sit with me right now, at this moment, maybe I could talk about it some other time. But yeah, I'm trying to be more. I'm going to try to be more. I'm trying to be more conscious in how I operate moving forward and catering to myself, because we all need to be catered for. We all need to be catered for. Even Superman needs Lois Lane, even though she doesn't have all the superpowers he has. Even he needs Lois Lane. So, if you find yourself on this table, cater to yourself, man. Consciously put yourself in spaces or in a space where you can be addressed, where you're even allowed to address yourself. It could be you being the primary focus in that space. Everybody could use some counseling. You may not have to be a certified counselor or a therapist, but at least some authority or some individual that can choose to have your best interest at heart and talks through certain things to you. Give you that safe space to open up. Or even in your other relationships around you, your close relationships, you could pursue for things to be more mutual. To be more mutual, not too one-sided. You feel me? Because even in thinking of that, I feel like it will also like foster better relationships with people in your life. More balanced relationships with people in your life. Yeah. One thing I'm also even learning in this time is because I find myself in I tend to find myself in leadership positions in the spiritual space. I'm also even learning that I have to be conscious in putting myself as someone that's being fed as opposed to the person doing the feeding. You feel me? I have to be conscious about not always being in the position of the lead or the convener. You feel me? So the fact that I even find myself in those positions, which are great, areas of service, grateful to God for that, grateful that could be used for things like that. But I also have to be conscious in balancing it out. I also have to be conscious in putting myself in spaces in my other time where I'm being fed. You feel me? I don't have to feed anybody. I don't have to, because that could also be a slippery slope when you're constantly in the place where you're the authority, especially on spiritual things. But that's another thing. That's another topic for another day. But yeah, I think that's a good way to open up this table. Being vulnerable, someone who could tend to put on that big S on my chest. I could use some help too. So I had to put myself in that space to get that help. I had to put myself in that space to actually recognize that I need help and help myself. You feel me? All right. Thank you guys. Once again, like, subscribe, share. I've really enjoyed. I mean, this is the first video of this particular table, my second official table I'm breaking. From the first one, I've really enjoyed it. Being very introspective. And I'm liking certain things I'm figuring out in this season of my life. It could be pretty scary sometimes. Maybe not scary, just maybe it could be any stepping into uncharted waters is very interesting, but I'd be very glad to do this. And the feedback I've been getting has been very great too. So, and it's very, very encouraging. So I thank you guys. Thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. As always, you can always let me know your thoughts. Most of all, if you recognize with these tables, if I say something that resonates with you, that hits pretty home to you, let me know. Let me know in the comments. You could even send me a DM on Instagram. You could reach out to me in many ways, man. I don't have many ways for Instagram, yeah. But you could leave a comment. So if you're still here, like, share, subscribe, hit the notification bell so you can know when new episodes drop. Appreciate you guys once again. All right, take it easy, y'all. Peace.
Sit back, relax, and chill. Grab a glass of wine or a cup of tea, 'cause you're listening to NoTable Talk.